From growing up in Indiana to becoming a Major League Baseball player, Ryan Pepiot's journey started right here when he was a Bulldog at Butler University, working, grinding, and chasing his dream. While at Butler, Pepiot was not one of the bigger names in college baseball, but he was chasing one thing, and that was to eclipse his dream of becoming a Major League Baseball player. And that story starts right here. He had offers from other bigger Indiana schools, but Pepiot knew Butler was the right choice because he could have the opportunity to be a starting pitcher, which is exactly what he wanted to do.
I had a handful of schools. Indiana, Purdue, like Illinois State, Bradley, Belmont, from what I remember. But for me, a lot of it was close to home was nice because my brother was still in school, so you get to go back and watch him. Good education, like obviously wanted to play pro baseball, but you never know if that's going to ever happen. So good education to fall back on with getting a job. And then Big East Conference was pretty cool one to play in, going to like all the major cities. You know, you go to DC, New York, Philly. So getting to go to some cool places, and then opportunity to pitch. I played multiple sports in high school, so going to college and like only playing baseball for the first time was going to be different. But then also, I'm like, if I'm going to go somewhere and just play one sport, I want to play and not sit in the bullpen the whole time. And Butler was like, okay, you can come in and compete for a rotation spot.
Ryan Pepiot grew up in Westfield, Indiana. As like many athletes, Pepiot played a multitude of sports in high school. But when he got to high school, he didn't just decide on baseball. He also decided to play football and basketball as well. Mainly, Pepiot was the quarterback on the Westfield football team, turning heads.
Now that like I've been in professional baseball, there's so many guys that were like high school quarterbacks. They ran track or they did soccer or whatever it was, what other multiple sports were. And I think it just helps you be more of like a well-rounded athlete and not just solely specific on baseball. There's so many things that you can do to like help baseball, but then you make yourself. I mean, throwing a football helped arm strength wise. You start lifting in the gym and doing football stuff, and you're throwing around some weights around a bunch of big dudes. That's going to help grow you a little bit and make you bigger and stronger. So I think just helps in general being a more balanced athlete.
Pepiot knew his junior year at Butler would likely be his last. Being able to post a 3.92 ERA and going 4-4 on the season for the Bulldogs, Pepiot was able to get drafted in the third round of the 2019 MLB entry draft by legendary MLB franchise, the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I think the biggest differences, like coaching wise, was just the amount of information that we had. With at Butler we had four coaches. And Coach
Mm-hmm.
Norton was the only guy that was really handling the pitching side and handling 20 pitchers basically. When you get into pro ball, yeah, there's like 200 people in an organization, but there's like the same amount of staff members, and they're all working on analytics and understanding all that. I didn't have any clue about all the analytical stuff. Really, that I knew a little bit. I knew enough to get by, but once I got over the amount of information you can have was sometimes information overload. And then I think the other big change is you go from throwing every 7 days and every Friday or every Saturday to every fifth day.
Pepe was able to start playing in the Dodgers organization late in 2019, playing in A-ball and rookie ball. In 2021, he spent time in both AA and AAA, but 2022, he spent time in AAA only, and then finally, the debut came. On May 11th, 2022 is when Ryan Pepiot's dreams became a reality for the Los Angeles Dodgers when he pitched a game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. In his debut, Pepiot allowed 1 hit, 5 walks, and 3 strikeouts. He was able to strike out the first batter he faced, Ben Gamel, on 4 pitches. Nonetheless, it may have not been the start he wanted, but Pepiot was able to make his dreams come true.
Everyone told me like on your debut game, like stand on the mound right before your first pitch and just like look around. So like I like stood there and kind of like this was before the pitch clock too, so you could totally do whatever you wanted. And like I stood up there and like totally did like surveyed the entire ballpark. And Pittsburgh's a cool ballpark if you guys haven't been. With the river behind it, like the views are really cool. So like I tried to really soak it in. And then I threw a strike for the first pitch of the game. So like that really, settled everything. And then I struck out the first guy. So that was a good welcome to the big leagues. But then I had the bases loaded with like 1 out in my debut first inning. And I'm like, well, Ryan, you did this to yourself. Figure it out. Somehow came out unscathed. ended up like walking the house that game. But I sit in there and I'm like, what in the world just happened? I debuted and like all lived out my childhood dream, but I kind of sucked. But I like did okay-ish while sucking. And then I'm just sitting on the bench afterwards trying to figure out what in the world just happened. And then it's Clayton Kershaw sitting next to me, just like walking me through it and just being like, hey, like when you're going through something like this, what's your cue? Um, like let's work on something so that you can get yourself back in the zone and get back locked in. And you can go out there and kind of grind through 5, 6 innings so that the bullpen isn't taxed.
Coming up with an organization like the Los Angeles Dodgers, there's going to be a lot of veteran presence in the locker room, especially in 2022. Pepiot explains to us which veterans he really latched onto and which players he latched onto as friends, starting up with the Dodgers, and also the teammates he's friends with on the Rays.
Tony Gonsolin early on went in LA. Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, obviously, went in LA, and Lance Lynn, for sure, were the ones in LA that took me under their wing. And then, honestly, one of my best friends to the day now is Zach Eflin. When I got traded to the Rays, like him and I were like inseparable. Always doing everything together. Whatever he was doing, I was going and doing with him. He'd pitch, I'd pitch. The next day, we're both out golfing after our starts. Like he would take me wherever we go to dinner on road trips and all that stuff, hanging out with our families, with his kids and my wife. So I'd say him and then Zach Littell as well.
Back in 2024, facing division rival Boston Red Sox, Ryan Pepiot was able to etch his name into baseball history, being one of only 118 players to this day to be able to accomplish the feat of throwing an immaculate inning. To throw an immaculate inning, you must throw 3 straight strikes, resulting in strikeouts to the 3 batters you see in that inning, and this will result in you throwing only 9 pitches. Pepiot was able to do this against the league's top hitters, Connor Wong, Willie Abreu, and Tristan Casas. But one thing that is safe to say is that Ryan Pepiot's name will always be cemented in MLB history.
I knew after I'd struck out Abreu second, when Cal came up to bat, I knew it was a possibility. And the cool part was I struck out the first 2 guys with 6 fastballs. So I knew what was going on. And Ben called change up first pitch to Cassis. And I was like, well, you better just throw this strike. And then he fouled the next one, jump off. And then I was like, please call a fastball.
And Pepiot set. And the 0-2. And he got her. An immaculate inning right there. 9 pitches, 3 strikeouts.
Pepiot was able to be picked up by one of the most popular agents in the business, Scott Boras. Boras is known as one of the top MLB agents who demands a lot of money for his star players. Pepiot explains to us, though, what Boras is actually like and how he wants only good for his players.
And he's like actually one of the nicest guys out there too. In the media, everyone was like, oh, Scott Boras villain. No, he's like the nicest guy ever, and all he cares about is like us as players, and he wants the best for his players. So he's like, I'll happily be the villain for you guys so that you guys go out there and enjoy it. And he's like, I don't care. But it was cool because when I played in LA, he has like 6 season tickets right behind home plate, front row. So I would see him basically every day when I was there. During batting practice, go hang out with him and the guys, and then it ended up whenever he'd have his visiting players come in, it was cool because I get to meet some of those guys and like build a relationship with different players because baseball is a super small world and you end up like playing with guys you meet, and then next thing you know, you already have like a little bit of a connection, and you go on the road trip and you're playing in a different ballpark and you see him across the field and you can say what's up and all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
Being a pitcher in the MLB, there's a lot of statistics involved. A lot of pitchers tend to be very analytically driven. We asked Pepiot what stats he likes to follow as a pitcher.
Okay, like FIP's cool because of the homers, the walks, the strikeouts, the stuff that like I can control and like no defense. But the RA9's similar to that, but then also has more on like exit velo, all kinds of other stuff. But honestly, you can go down a entire rabbit hole of analytics and it gets wild. And I'm like, that's too much for me. Like then I'll start thinking too much, and sometimes you just gotta see how the game goes.